So for today's review, I'm going to be looking at Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PlayStation 1, which is part of Metal Gear Solid month here on Super Beanie-man Gaming. Now, Metal Gear was released in September 1998 for the PS1, and to this day, it still remains one of the best games that the system had to offer. It was a cinematic adventure like no other before it, and it was one of the first games alongside Tenchu to really popularise this new stealth genre, where it wasn't always the best idea to run in head first with a gun and take out the enemies, as this one encouraged you to think a bit more and maybe try and avoid conflict. Stealth was the name of the game here, and what a game it was. But what else is there left to say about a masterpiece like Metal Gear Solid that other critics and YouTubers have already probably covered? Well, to be honest, I'm not quite sure. So for today's review, it's going to be a little bit different than the normal one. Instead of a normal review, I'm going to be going through my favourite and least favourite things about Metal Gear Solid 1.
Super Beanie-man Gaming. All kinds of games he's playing.
Push start to begin.
Super Beanie-man Gaming.
Right, let's get started. Kept you waiting, huh? What I hate: cutscenes. Now, I have to mention these, even though I love them personally, and I think they really add to the game, and one of the reasons why it's such a special game. But I can see why some people could be put off with this game, as there is a lot of dialogue, way much more than people were used to in video games of the 90s, as you probably watch more than you actually play. Well, it's nowhere near like an interactive movie like a Telltale game is nowadays. It does have a large amount of lengthy cutscenes and codec calls, which may annoy people who just want a run and gun game, which this game really isn't about anyway. But yeah, that's the first one: cutscenes. What I love: cutscenes. So for me, the cutscenes are amazing in this game, and they really help to elevate it above its peers. The game is going for a Hollywood action movie style, and it uses the cutscenes to great effect in the game to really help tell this deep story. One of the cool things about these is that they are done in-engine and are not pre-rendered, which results in a consistent feel from gameplay to cutscene, so you're never really taken out of the action, even when you're just watching. There are so many great moments in this game, from the cutscenes as well as the gameplay. Who can forget all the intros to the bosses, the cinematic fight with Liquid in his Hind D, the explosion, the jeep chases? All of it is just brilliantly done. The voice acting, direction and sound are all some of the most amazingly well done that you'd see in a video game, and especially when you consider that this game came out in the late 90s. Sure, there are some scenes that drag a bit too much, like the multiple speeches Liquid has on top of Rex near the end of the game. However, by that point, I am certain you'll be totally immersed in this world and invested in Snake as a character to not even care that much. What I hate: having to manually tap X to skip each line of dialogue during codec calls. Now, this was a problem they addressed in later sequels, as you could just trigger an auto press so it would scroll through all of the dialogue automatically. But in Metal Gear Solid 1, you have to spam X to manually skip each line of codec call conversations. Now, on my first few playthroughs this is fine, but when you just want to blast through the game, maybe do a speedrun, or just replay it quickly one afternoon, this can become rather fucking annoying.
It's Snake. I'm in front of the disposal facility.
Excellent, Snake. Age hasn't slowed you down one bit.
How's that sneaking suit working out?
I'm nice and dry, but it's a little hard to move.
Bear with me.
It's Snake. I'm in front of the disposal facility.
Excellent, Snake. Age hasn't slowed you down one bit.
How's that sneaking suit working out?
I'm nice and dry, but it's a little hard to move.
Bear with it. It's designed to prevent... How's that sneaking suit working out?
I'm nice and dry, but it's a little hard to move.
Bear with it. It's designed to prevent...
Come on. Come on. This is like a game in its own. Fucking track and field again, Konami. Jesus Christ. Come on. I don't need to listen to all this. I've already done it a million times. Come on. I just want to get back to the gameplay. Oh, thank God.
Behind D. Colonel, what's a Russian gunship doing here?
What I love. The cast of characters. Metal Gear Solid 1 has some of the strongest and visually striking villains and cast of characters in any video game, with series classics like Solid Snake, Liquid Snake, Revolver Ocelot, Raven and Psycho Mantis to name a few, all of which have some really cool standout moments. Even supporting characters like Campbell and Mei Ling are still interesting and memorable characters that you'll remember fondly for many years to come. More so than any other game, particular games of that era, these characters had depth. Sure, they were still stereotypes, but they all had unique personalities, conflicting motivations, and genuine heart. These characters are a crucial part of the Metal Gear Solid formula, and what made the game so unique for the time. The bosses in particular, for me at least, are really stand out, because each one of them is memorable in their own way. They're all interesting, they have depth, and they're all unique, and visually they're all very interesting and completely different to what you would have seen in any other game. They aren't just there simply for you to just kill and move on, as you'll be remembering them and their impact for many years to come. That is why Metal Gear Solid's characters are some of the best in any video game, and it's another reason why I love this game. What I hate: choking guards. Now, grabbing guards in Metal Gear Solid 1, nowadays at least, is way more fucking awkward than I remember it being. It's a really finicky and very precise move that you'll more often than not fail due to either undershooting it, causing you to just grab the air behind him like an idiot, or overshoot it, causing you to either throw him or bump into him, alerting the guard. It does take a bit of getting used to, and the early frustrations of pulling it off can put you off doing it altogether, making the game slightly harder on yourself. Now, Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 did it a lot better than this game, but maybe it's just me being shit. Okay, I totally got this guy. Just got to sneak up on him, grab him, and choke him out. Come on, you bastard. Right, alright, got you. Oh, what the fuck? You've just thrown him? For fuck's sake, Snake. Great, now the whole base is fucking alerted. Jesus fucking Christ. What I love: the visuals and sound design. This is perhaps one of the most detailed games on PlayStation 1, and you can see that it really pushes the machine to its absolute limits in terms of visuals and sound. Hell, the game comes on 2 discs for Christ's sake, because it's that fucking big. Each area is hugely detailed, and due to the game's design with its top-down view, there's hardly ever any popping or texture warping when playing, like you'd see in most other 3D games of the time, such as Tomb Raider. This stuff was polished and ahead of its time when it came out, and it really showed. The attention to detail in this game is extremely high, and it's some of the more subtle moments that I can really appreciate, such as the tanker hangar when you first sneak into the base and you see a tank parked in there. After fighting Ocelot, you come back to this room only to find the tank has now gone. Now, on a first playthrough this seems minor, however as you progress outside you see the tank and realise where it went. What about that time when you're in the ninja corridor and he's just killed all those guards, and the one that you see impaled on his sword that he flicks off? After that cutscene, he's actually on the floor and he's still breathing, though really badly. You can see he's gasping for his last few breaths. When you go into the room the ninja went into and you have your boss battle with him, after coming out of there, the guy is now dead on the floor as he's no longer breathing or animating. It's nice little touches like that that just make this game so cool. Or how about Otacon's actual office and how all of the monitors, glass panels and chairs in that room can be knocked over or destroyed during the ninja fight itself. There are also cool effects such as snow, heat trails and water, which are affected by the player itself, as you will leave footprints and make a sound when running over certain surfaces such as metal. It was one of the first games I can think of where sound was actually a part of the gameplay. The guards in this game, for the time, are actually really intelligent, as they could actually hear you and be distracted from their set path if you made a noise. And there were also walls that were hollow, which you could blow up with C4 or bang on them to make a noise to distract guards. These patches would also make different sounds to normal wall sections, allowing you to know where to blow the right bits. This sounds basic in 2019, but trust me, I was around at 14 at this point, and this stuff was absolutely mind-blowing. What I hate, the tanker battle. Now, while the concept itself is a fun one, a single man versus a tank, the execution of this boss battle compared to the others feels a little clunky, and it definitely shows its age in 2019. This is due, for the most part, to the awkward controls in how you throw the grenade and move around. It can be quite tricky to lob them onto the tank, and you definitely don't feel as cool in this fight as you do in the others. Goddamn Snake, just throw the fucking grenade onto the tank, will you? Fuck me. Oh. Now you just... Oh, fucking hell. I'm gonna run out of fucking grenades in a minute. Just get up there. Get up there. Get on there. God's sake, Snake. The grenades need to land in a very precise spot on the tank in order to hit the genome soldiers that are using the mounted machine guns, which makes it all the more frustrating. Plus, as you're running around to get close to the tank, you can easily be shot down by the missiles that it shoots out. When you do get close to it, the tanker is still moving as well, so when you try and cock a grenade and throw it, odds are the tank's already moved out the way before you've thrown the damn thing. Plus, you can also get a bit too carried away after getting hit with one grenade and then try to quickly throw another one in the same spot, only to realise that the enemies are then invulnerable for a few seconds, so that grenade's just been wasted. God damn it. What I love, Kojima's quirkiness and all the fourth wall breaks. Metal Gear is a Hollywood action movie with a Japanese flavour, which really gives it a whole new feel where anything can happen. It's a cool game, but it's also a nerdy one with an attention to detail like no other. There are also standout moments that truly amaze and shock the player. From the interactions with Mantis as he reads your memory card saves and moves your DualShock across the floor, to the torture with Ocelot telling you not to use a turbo pad or else he'll know about it. These are all truly genius moments. And what other game gets you to switch to controller port 2 so that an in-game boss can no longer read your mind and button inputs, allowing you to actually fight them and land hits on them properly?
Oh no. Oh my god, I can't do anything. You can read my mind.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck to do.
Dude, you gotta plug the controller into the second controller port.
Oh. Well, how the fuck was I supposed to figure that out?
Colonel tells you.
God, you know, that's really cool and all, but like, seriously, what the hell?
Yeah.
Or how about the parts during Naomi's chats when Snake is captured and he says his arm hurts? Then Naomi starts to simulate a massage via the nanomachines injected into Snake, which translates to the player holding the DualShock controller on their arm as it rumbles to heal all their wounds. These are things that no one was thinking about or even knew they could do. No one except for Kojima. Who else would make it? Who else would think to make the player character catch a cold if they stayed out in the snow for too long? Or how about the part where you need to call Meryl to help you out?
Now to find... Wait, what am I looking for? Colonel, how do I contact Meryl? Oh, whoops. Never mind, you're too hot.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck to do.
You have to look at the back of the CD case for Meryl's codec number.
Oh, well, how the fuck was I supposed to figure that out?
Colonel tells you.
Oh, whoops.
What?
I killed him. Oh, okay, so... 140.15. Okay, cool.
Hey, Agnes, what's up?
Or what about a cardboard box as an item to use to hide from guards? You would never see that in any American-made action game, because it's too damn crazy and out there, and I absolutely love it. For Kojima is Metal Gear, and without him, it's just not a true Metal Gear game. You only have to look at Metal Gear Survive, the first one without him at the helm, to see that. What I hate. Shooting while moving. Now this is another area where the controls feel a little dated by today's standard, as it's an awkward sort of 2-button press and hold to execute the move. I'm never fully comfortable doing it, and the shooting aiming in general is a bit rubbish, to be fair. Even with the aim assist that goes on, it's still quite clunky to shoot and hit people. The Ocelot boss fight is quite an obvious example of this, as it's a bit awkward running around. If you don't know how to run by this point, you're probably not going to be able to kill Ocelot very easily, as standing and moving to aim, while standing in a position and moving to aim, should I say, is rather awkward. You definitely need to be able to run and shoot at this point, because then you can go in an opposite direction to where Ocelot's running and get the drop on him that way. Also, you're going to need to run and shoot when you're climbing up the comms tower, because there's a lot of guards coming at you there, and it's best to just mow through them with the FAMAS.
Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. Oh god, oh god, oh god. Oh god, oh god, oh god. Phew, made it.
I'm sure at the time this wasn't as bad, but I still remember it being a bit awkward. So yeah, the shooting in this game, it isn't great. What I loved, the voice actors. For the time, these actors were of a movie-like quality, and each actor, no matter the role, big or small, really gave it their all and did an amazing job. This was the era of the hammy voice acting in games, with titles like Resident Evil and even Tomb Raider all having pretty cringy wooden dialogue and actors in their roles who weren't that great, to be fair. So Metal Gear Solid 1, when that came along with its quality voice work and superb audio, was a real breath of fresh air, and in particular Solid Snake's, Liquid Ocelots and Campbell as voice actors, David Hayter, Cam Clark and Paul Ealing respectively, were top tier and really brought these characters to life. For me, this was the first time a game's characters seemed so realistic and movie-like that it didn't feel like I was playing a game, and instead it felt like I was part of something truly special. What I hated, the key cards. Now, while the inventory system in this game is very good and unique, the way in which the player opens normal doors within the game using the key items are a bit annoying. You see, the doors are all locked by a set number, with each key card opening its numbered doors and the ones below it. However, the key needs to be equipped in order for you to actually open the door, so it does cause a lot of unnecessarily stopping and starting whenever you get to another door, as you need to fumble around in your inventory to get out the card. Right, I'm just going to head through here through this new door. For fuck's sake, it's not opening. Why isn't it open? I've got the key. Oh, for fucking hell, I ain't got it equipped, have I? Jesus fucking Christ. Where is it? Where the fuck is it in the inventory? Oh, there it is. Oh, I've gone past it now. Fuck's sake. Right, there we go. Let's go in. Okay. Fucking hell. Why couldn't you just have the card in your inventory and it just opens any door that you come up to? As long as you've got it somewhere in your inventory, it should work because it's on your person. I don't see why you have to have it equipped in that item slot for you to open the door. It's just annoying. But thank God the keys stack on top of each other, so you don't end up with like 6 or 7 keys in your inventory that you have to scroll through. That's at least one good thing about it. What I loved, the awesome stealth gameplay. Now, if you wanted a stealth game on the PS1, it was either Metal Gear Solid or Tenchu. And while I loved being a ninja in Tenchu, the game's draw distance broke that game, as you could barely see 3 steps in front of you. So it kind of ruined the experience, as you were mostly looking at black screens all the time. Whereas Metal Gear, with its top-down perspective, it didn't have that problem, and it was a better stealth game for it. There's a great sense of outsmarting the AI when you play this game stealthily, as you sneak past guards unaware of your presence, which very few games have. Sure, you can just gun them down, but to take your time and try and sneak into an enemy base undetected is tense, exciting, and rewarding as hell when you do it, because you think, yeah, fuck you game, I've got one over on you. It was something that I hadn't really experienced before, and it was really good going into a level and figuring out how you get through it, what the best route was to take. Would you go through an air vent on the bottom floor, or would you try and sneak through a bit further into the room and go upstairs and go through a ladder into another vent? You know, but there you've got a few guards to avoid. You also had a load of items and tools at your disposal to help with the stealth gameplay. The cardboard box being a great item to use, so you could hide in a box, and if someone was alerted to a noise that you made, they would come up to the box, and usually they would just say, just a box, and then walk away. Then you would have weapons like the shaft grenades that you could throw to disable cameras so they couldn't see you anymore, or stun grenades to quickly knock out guards in a room. You know, you had a pistol which would make a lot of noise, but if you search through the game in many areas in the base, you would eventually find a suppressor for it, so then you could kill people silently. You know, it was really good. You could choke people out, or you could knock people out, and eventually they would get up, so you would have to try and get away from that area before they woke up and realised someone was intruding into this base. The stealth gameplay was amazing, and I would have loved to have seen more games in Metal Gear Solid series on the PS1 to see what else they could do with it, because the special missions really had some great stealth scenarios in them. That is why I love the stealth in this game, because it's just amazing, man. What I hated, backtracking. Now, to get the PSG-1 sniper rifle, the game did suffer from a fair bit of backtracking, which for some people can get quite annoying. One particular instance of this is where you need to get the PSG-1 sniper rifle for the Sniper Wolf boss battle. This is just after Meryl's got shot, and you then have to run pretty much all the way back to near enough the start of the game in order to open that high level door that you couldn't previously. Then you have to run all the way back and finally have your boss fight. Now this probably takes maybe 20 minutes or so, and nothing much has changed in the areas you've just gone through, so it is a bit stale, this part. However, in many ways it is also a brilliant move in terms of the story and the feeling you get out of the player. Now, the average player will probably be fairly attached to Meryl as a character at this point, and seeing her get shot is kind of heartbreaking, as you and Snake are powerless to stop Sniper Wolf's bullets hitting her. You then get the realisation that you can't actually help her once the game returns control to you, as you're defenceless against Sniper Wolf's attacks, and that in order to help her, you actually need to leave her, abandoning her when she needs you the most. So you then get this sort of intense mad dash all the way back to the other side of the base in order to get the PSG-1. Then you bolt it back to her as fast as possible, thinking to yourself, I hope she's okay, she just needs to hang on. Then when you do get there, she's gone, but Wolf is still waiting for you. It's great, but at the same time, I can't deny that this is a really big backtrack, and I can see why many people may roll their eyes at this bit, because it does kind of feel a bit like filler. What I loved, enemy AI. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the enemy AI in this game is really impressive, and it was another big improvement over most games of the time, and their movesets really complement the stealth design. These guards would go on a set path around the area, patrolling their route at all times, but what made them great was that these guards could see you, and they could also hear you, and as a player you could see what they were looking at all times, thanks to this awesome soliton radar in the top corner of the screen. Now, if you were to make a noise, they could hear you, say if you fired your weapon, or if you banged up against a wall, or ran over a noisy surface. They would actually hear that and wonder, huh, what was that noise? And they would come to the spot of that noise and investigate it, walking over and then having a look around before returning back to their normal patrol route. Obviously, if they saw you, they would then call in reinforcements, and you'd suddenly find 3 or 4 guards shooting you with their machine guns. It made the game really intense, as slipping up against one guard could result in a few more, a whole army's base coming at you, taking up all your precious ammo, or maybe even killing you outright. And it wasn't just the sounds that they could be alerted by, as they could also see you, or they could see where you had been through the use of footprints, which for the time was absolutely incredible. In the snow bits outdoors, you could leave footprints in the snow, and if they happened to be on the path of the guard's patrol route, or even near it, and they saw it as they walked around, they would instantly go and investigate, and they would actually follow all of your footprints until they either just ran out, or you ran onto a bit that didn't have snow anymore. And there was also points where there were puddles in the game, and they would leave wet footprints around, so they would also follow them. It was truly groundbreaking, and it was so incredible to see in a game. You know, for the time, these enemies felt real. They felt really impressive, and you didn't want them to see you. The bosses also were really well done, having their own unique patterns and movesets to make each boss fight unique and interesting. What I hated, Decoy Octopus. While I loved the twist in the storyline regarding this character, I always regretted that it came at the expense of actually having a boss fight with him, as I think it could have been another really cool boss fight that should have had some really memorable moments in it, kind of like the Psycho Mantis fight. We never actually see Octopus properly, and considering that Vulcan Raven technically has 2 boss fights, I always felt like he was meant to have had a bigger role than you actually ended up having. Perhaps there was budget cuts or time restraints, or maybe it was just the plan all along. I guess if I ever met Kojima, that is a question I'd ask him. The boss fight though, I feel like it could have been truly epic and really made use of the equipment Snake had on him. You know, the thermals or the radar itself could have been used to find him within a room full of other mannequins or something, you know. We eventually did get to see a version of an Octopus fight in Metal Gear Solid 4, but I would have been interested to see what they could have done with it on the PlayStation 1 hardware if he had actually been a boss fight. What I loved, One Big Adventure. While it's a linear game, there are no traditional levels with end level screens or summary screens that you'd see in adventure games like Tomb Raider 1, for example. Instead, it was one continuous level without any of those classic game results screens, which again helps to create a movie-like feel. You start from the outskirts of the base and you work your way all the way up to it, through it, and out the other end where the end of the game lies, and it's all seamlessly done. Yeah, sure, there are cutscenes in between and a disc swap at some point, but there are no breakups in terms of gameplay and story progression. You start from one end and you work your way towards the other. And it really worked well for me. I loved this approach as it really helped with the immersion, as it was really cool to be able to run from one side to the other and then look back and think, Jesus, how did I ever make it this far? And it's one of the great things I loved about Metal Gear, because it just makes it so unique compared to other games. What I hate. The Master Miller twist. So, Snake chats to people in the game via his codec, which is like an earpiece device. So, for the purpose of the game, we see a codec called screen, and it has an image of each character talking during these calls. And this is what makes the Master Miller chat a bit odd.
Hello, Snake. It's been a while. Do you remember me?
Liquid?
No, this is McDonald Miller, your old buddy.
Who? Are you from Snake's Revenge?
No, Snake. Don't you remember?
Why is there a helicopter in the background?
It's my stomach. I'm hungry.
Hungry for worms?
No, hungry for words.
Shut up.
So, near the end of the game, it's revealed that it was actually Liquid chatting to you all along. So I get that Snake would be tricked, as Liquid changes his voice. But why the hell does Liquid change his appearance during these chats? I mean, he slicks back his hair and he puts on sunglasses, which I loved, by the way, Liquid. And it makes no sense, as Snake can't see him. I guess this is just for the player's benefit, but it's also a bit weird. But hey, it's kind of one of those fourth wall breaks really, isn't it? What I loved, the weapons and equipment at Snake's disposal. For a stealth-focused game, Metal Gear Solid sure does give the player a lot of really cool weapons. You start out with nothing but your cigarettes. However, if you explore the enemy base, it won't be long before you find some really useful weapons and items to make Snake a walking tank. Each weapon was there for a reason too, and each complemented the design of the actual game and the gameplay mechanics it was based around. The SOCOM pistol can have a suppressor attached, allowing you to kill silently if you are struggling to sneak past the guards but still want to maintain a stealth approach. The FAMAS is also essential to plough through the soldiers during the comms tower climb, while the sniper, Nikita and Stinger missile launchers also prove invaluable during normal gameplay, and especially the boss fights that are tailored towards their use. Then you have the tool sort of item types, such as the claymores and C4s, which you can plant to trap guards or lure them over with explosive sounds. Likewise, the grenades are also well thought out. You then have the explosive grenades for the tank battle, and also the stun grenades to instantly knock out nearby guards, and finally the shaft grenades, which will disable cameras in rooms. These won't harm humans, but they allow you to sneak past cameras which would otherwise have spotted you and called in reinforcements. So yeah, the weapons are fun and rather creative, and there's a good mixture of traditional weapons and then unique ones which were quite unexpected, and another reason why this game works so well. Nothing is there that is not needed, and that's another plus point. What I hate, the Metal Gear room. Now, the Metal Gear room is a really cool looking room, as it's where the giant Metal Gear Rex is stored, but Jesus Christ is this an annoying room. Now, when you first enter, you're tasked with climbing up Metal Gear to get to the control room at the very top of this area. And this for me was always one of the points in the game where I feel like the story got in the way of the actual gameplay. Let's climb up the ladders and get up there. Oh, protocol. Who's this now?
Snake, it's
Right.
me. What's wrong?
Yep, okay, well, thanks for that, Argon, okay? Let's go up the next ladder then. Jesus Christ, another codec call.
It's me again.
Fucking Argon again. Come on, just let me climb up the fucking thing. Another one. Jesus Christ, Argon, just shut the fuck up and let me climb this fucking ladder, will you? What I loved. Solid Snake and the journey he goes on. Now, I know I've already talked about the characters in this game and why I love them already, but I do feel like Solid Snake deserves his own good point, as he's such a hugely important part of the game and a reason why I love it so much. David Hayter is perfect in the role of Solid Snake, and his voice is this gravelly tough guy voice that is really memorable and it sticks out. It's so iconic. And Snake himself starts out as your typical action hero, but his character grows so much over the course of the game. He begins as this cold mercenary coming in to save people and kill the bad guys, but then he meets Meryl and he eventually falls in love with this woman. Even though he tries to resist, he can't help but fall in love with her, because I guess love can bloom on the battlefield. It's even better in the multiple endings when he thinks he's lost her, as his character grows even more, but we'll save that for later. All of this and much more makes Solid Snake such an iconic character. Hell, he's that iconic he's even appeared in Smash Bros, and that's saying something, right? What I hate: when failing stealth equals death. Now this is a little bugbear with stealth games in general, and Metal Gear Solid only really commits this sin once when you get into the nuclear weapons room, as if you get caught in here, you are punished and killed actually outright. The reason why is because you can't use your weapons in this room, and if you get caught, an alarm goes off in the room and poisonous gas leaks in, leaving you dead because all the doors and exits get closed off, and you can't just fight your way out or kill all the guards and hide and hope that the alert goes off, because you'll be dead. It's pretty much a bullshit area, but thankfully there is only one area in the game that's like this. As any other one, you can simply hide and wait for them to forget all about you.
Snake, you can't use weapons on that floor.
Who the fuck are you?
Actually, I just made it impossible for you to use weapons anyway.
Wait a second, what?
That floor holds nukes, which are very...
Fuck, I can't use my weapons!
No, I guess that was kind of stupid.
Dead. What? Stealth camouflage. What I loved, the multiple endings. Now, while the endings themselves are pretty similar, for example, you still end up in the same place, Liquid still dies, etc, but it's the person that you save and take with you that makes all the difference and really impacts Snake's character. You see, in the good ending, Snake manages to survive Ocelot's torture, and as a result, he doesn't kill Meryl. The two of them then reunite on top of Metal Gear Rex as Snake knocks Liquid off, and they both escape together. In this ending, Snake is the typical action movie hero who stops all the bad guys and gets the girl. But it's when you're on the bad ending path that I truly feel the game shines and Snake becomes a better character. You see, in this one, he gives in to Ocelot's torture, and as a result, Ocelot kills Meryl, so Snake doesn't save her, and he instead exits the compound with Archon. Why I like this ending is because it goes against the typical action movie type. Snake isn't the perfect action hero in this game, and instead it becomes this flawed, sad and lonely killer full of guilt and regret. There is a great scene with Archon and Snake after you defeat the Hind D, and Archon praises you as an action movie hero. In the bad ending, Snake gets really emotional and nearly breaks down as he says he's no hero and that a real hero was always rescue the girl, and that he gave into his torture and traded her life for his own. It's here where we see a Snake that is racked with guilt and anger, as well as sadness as what happened, and it's great to see it in a video game, especially on the PS1. For me, this was the better ending, and I always thought of this as the canon one, as Meryl wasn't in 2, and instead you had Otacon with you. Though eventually she later appeared in Metal Gear Solid 4, so clearly the good ending is the proper one, as Meryl lives in that one. But for me, this one is always awesome, and in my opinion does more for Snake's character than the good ending. What I hated, even more backtracking. Now, the second backtracking occurs near the end of the game, and this is by far the most obnoxious and worst bit of the game, I think. It's when you get up to the Metal Gear control room and you insert the first PAL card, only to realise that there isn't 3 cards at all, and then it's just one with a shape-shifting ability. So you've done the room temperature key, and now you need to go and do the freezing key and the warm key cards. To do this, you have to backtrack quite a fair bit back to the cold room where you fought Vulcan Raven. Now, this is quite boring, as there isn't really much to do other than run back, wait in the room, and then quickly head back to the Metal Gear control room before the card changes temperature again. It's made even worse by backtracking, as you have to then go back to the furnace room for the 3rd card key, which is even further back from the freezing room key. Even worse again is the fact that to get to these areas you have to go up these really long lift rides that are really boring. You also get some really long codec calls at this point where they're telling you about Naomi and when she's not all as she seems. It kind of grinds the game down to a halt, and it is a bit annoying having to do it. But once you get past this annoyingly slow bit, the action is non-stop balls to the wall right up until the end. What I love, the unlockables. Now, releasing in 1998, Metal Gear was made in an era before DLC or shitty season passes, so naturally, like any good game, you actually unlock stuff within it when completing the game. And to be fair, there are some really cool extras to use in this new game and your New Game Plus playthroughs. You can unlock a bandana which you can equip on Snake to give you whatever weapon you currently have infinite ammo, allowing you to just go full on Rambo through the game. Infinite Stinger Missile, infinite Nikita Launcher, sign me up please. Then there is also the Stealth Suit, which makes you invisible to enemies, so you can have a load of fun just punching guards and watching them get confused as to what the hell just happened. I don't think it works on bosses, but anything else is fair game, and it really helps you speed through areas of the game stealthily. Then you can also unlock a couple of cosmetics, like a tuxedo for Snake, allowing him to look more like James Bond. There's also a camera, allowing you to take photos of whatever you want and save them to your memory card. They even added some cool hidden ghosts in certain areas that will only show up with the camera, and I think they were photos of the developers, which was a really nice touch. You didn't have to do it, but it was there if you wanted to. Finally, you also had the VR training mode, which wasn't technically an unlockable, but it was a little extra in the game, as these were a bunch of VR missions for sneaking and combat, which gave you some cool little stealth scenarios and set pieces to play through. These VR missions are pretty fun, and they were popular enough for it to spawn its own game in the form of the data disc add-on for Metal Gear Solid Special Missions, or VR missions in certain countries. All in all, it really helped to improve the replay value of the game, making you go through the game multiple times, and each time you did it, you were doing it with something new, so it was always fun and a bit fresh. So there you have it. That was my favourite and least favourite things about Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PlayStation 1. And even then, the negatives that I did struggle to pick out were all pretty minor things and didn't really detract from the overall experience of this, quite frankly, mind-blowing game. This is a game that absolutely changed the industry, and its influence is still felt in games to this day. I was hooked on Metal Gear Solid from day one of this being released, and I've been a fan of Kojima and Snake ever since. I mean, hell, I brought all the games, I've got a shitload of merchandise, and it's all thanks to this game, Metal Gear Solid. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a game that I will just play it again and again, and I can always come back to it and play it again, because it's just so much fun. It's a game that I always remember, and I'm constantly quoting it with my friends, or even just round the house. I'll randomly say something like, you know, if you want to get in, there's the front door, or, you know, hurt me more, Snake, or, you know, anything like that. You know, I'm always remembering it, I'll always quote it, and I can't say that for many other games. You know, the Tomb Raiders I absolutely loved, but I wouldn't really be able to quote many lines of dialogue from those games, because it wasn't that memorable. Whereas Metal Gear Solid was just an amazing experience. It was one like no other. I mean, all the kids in my school at the time, we were all talking about this game. It was one that we all absolutely loved. And then we were so hyped for the Metal Gear Solid 2 sequel. You know, it was a franchise maker, this game. Sure, Metal Gear came before it, and Metal Gear 2 also came before it, but the series really hit its stride with this game. And to be fair, I think they really struggled to match this game in following sequels. I don't think Metal Gear Solid 2 was better than this. Metal Gear Solid 3 perhaps came the closest, as did Metal Gear Solid 4, but 5 and all the others, they just pale in comparison to the mighty Metal Gear Solid. And that is why I've dedicated the whole month to it. And that has been Metal Gear Solid month on Super Beanie-man Gaming. And I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed this review, and I hope it's given you a nice trip down memory lane. You know, maybe you've relived some of your favourite moments. Maybe some of your favourite moments weren't included on this, but if they weren't, leave a comment below and tell me what you love and hate about Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, that's it for my review. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you on the next Super Beanie-man review. And hell, there's still a few more videos to come in Metal Gear Solid month, so please tune in tomorrow to watch another Metal Gear Solid video. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.
Subscribe to Super Beanie-man Gaming. That's an order. Don't keep me waiting now.